Steel yourself. The government is now the boss of British Steel. Is it back to the future? Could full nationalisation of the industry be on the way? Well, the new gaffer of British Steel is here, otherwise known as the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, and with him his opposite number, Andrew Griffith from the Conservatives. It's been a momentous 24 hours, hasn't it?
It has been a significant
And
period.
Andrew, how do you see this?
Yeah, look, it's been a really big week, and a lot of people will be very uncertain, still wanting to know what the future looks like.
Okay, well, plenty for us to talk about with you two later in the programme. Nigel Farage is here too, the leader of Reform UK, who's arguing for the state to take full control now. His pal Donald Trump has told Russia to get moving on a ceasefire with Ukraine, but Russia tells us it won't be rushed.
We do not want a ceasefire for just to make it spectacular gesture, to show it publicly or for the media. We need full-scale settlement, once and forever.
Morning. Our team at the desk this week for the next hour. Gary Smith, head of the GMB union. Some of your members were on the site in Scunthorpe yesterday. Andy Street, Sir Andy Street now, the former Conservative Mayor of the West Midlands, and before that the boss of John Lewis. And Stephanie Flanders, economic giant brain and journalist at Bloomberg. Welcome to you all. Let's start, as ever, by what's making the news this morning. And no surprise, government control of British Steel is splashed across plenty of the papers. The Sunday Times claims the Navy is on alert to escort fuel to the plant, but it carries another story with another link to China-UK relations. A Lib Dem MP, you can see her there on the front page, Vera Hobhouse, was barred from entering Hong Kong. We'll talk about that a bit later. The Observer has one of the images that Downing Street will love. The Prime Minister pictured alongside a steel worker in Scunthorpe. The Sunday Mirror brands what's happened, Ring of Steel. And the Sunday Telegraph has a different lead, though, one of the Manchester Arena bombers' attack on prison officers in Durham. But it too carries another picture from Scunthorpe, where workers and families were marching in the sun while MPs were deciding the fate of the company. It has then, Gary, we just heard from Jonathan Reynolds, really been a momentous 24 hours. Some of your members were on site yesterday. What was actually going on? Because some of the allegations about sabotage, accusations of all sorts of things happening, workers blocking the Chinese management from entering. Well, let's talk then to the Business Secretary about what's next, because there are principles at stake here, but also some really pressing, urgent questions. You're the boss now. First of all, are you sure you will get the coal you need in time to keep the furnaces burning? Okay, Jonathan Reynolds, Secretary of State, very busy man. Now, boss of British Steel, thanks very much indeed for coming in. It's great to have you with us in the studio, as ever. Thank you. Now, this is, as we've been discussing, a huge moment for the Labour government. And of course, their political opponents were watching their every move. Not just the Conservatives, but in many places these days, of course, the challenger is Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Reform are pushing for full nationalisation of the Scunthorpe plant now, pointing the finger at the government's environmental policies for putting the industry in peril. Well, as we approach the local elections in England in a few weeks' time, the party's leader, Mr Farage, is with us live this morning. It's good to have you with us in the studio. Now, you're a right-wing politician, former city trader, and here you are backing nationalisation. It's a bit strange, isn't it?
I worked for 22 years in the metals industry.
OK, well, Nigel Farage, thank you very much for coming in. It's great to have you with us live in the studio on a Sunday morning. Thank you. Well, all the parties have been busy on the campaign trail. Here they are. The Lib Dems say, though, on British Steel, they'll work constructively with the government, but they urged it to be judicious about the emergency laws that they have passed. The Green Party has a different line, though. They say steel is integral to the green transition and they are in favour of public ownership. And we'll be talking to the leaders of the Greens and the Lib Dems on our next programme on the 27th of April, because we're having a little breather over the Easter weekend. Not yet, though. We're still here live and kicking this morning. Gary, what did you make of what Jonathan Reynolds had to say? I think a lot of our viewers' ears will have pricked up when he wouldn't guarantee that actually they can keep the plant running.
Did not actually have a policy answer to any of the big questions. OK,
well, let's see what Andrew Griffiths has to say about that. And of course, remember, we want to know what you think. We always do. You know the drill. Email us at kuenssberg@bbc.co.uk, or if you're a social media inclined type of person, you can use the hashtag BBC Laura Kay. All the contacts and numbers are there for you. I promise one day I will learn the WhatsApp number off by heart, and we will try and share some of the conversation a bit later in the show, or as ever, you can sign up for our Thursday newsletter. Well, as we've been discussing, Labour's not the first government to deal with the many ups and downs and ups of the steel industry. In office, the Conservatives were trying to broker a deal with Jingye, the owners of the Scunthorpe plant, but it didn't happen in time before the general election. And Andrew Griffith, as Shadow Business Secretary, is here. Just before we get into that, would you respond to Andy Street saying you should have nothing to do with reform, whether that's at local council level or national level? OK, well, we will see what happens. It will be fascinating to see it. Andrew Griffith, thank you very much indeed for coming in. It's great to have you with us in the studio again. Thank you very much indeed. Well, in 2025, it feels like everything is connected. One of the reasons the steel industry has struggled so much is the cost of energy. And one of the reasons for those sky-high prices has been the war in Ukraine. President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, met Vladimir Putin on Friday, the Americans demanding that Russia get moving towards a ceasefire. Just as that meeting was taking place, we sat down with the Russian ambassador here. So are there really any signs that Putin is interested in peace? Sooner or later there'll be peace. Well, Stephanie, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine is yet another thing, isn't it, that stirs up trouble for the economy. But thank you very much indeed to our trio at the desk this morning, and thank you to all of our guests. Thank you to you, of course, most of all, for spending your Sunday morning with us on yet another important weekend when the government's taking control of British Steel, and the track seems to be on the way to nationalisation. But the first job that is not guaranteed to succeed is literally to keep the fires burning. And the Business Secretary this morning would not confirm to us that the coal would arrive in time to keep the furnaces going. The next few days could be critical. We are off for Easter next weekend, so I'll wish you a happy one. But I'll be with Paddy on Sunday's newscast a bit later, and we'll be talking to Wira Hobhouse, the MP who was held in Hong Kong. So there'll be plenty to keep you occupied on BBC Sounds and iPlayer, of course. And I'll look forward to seeing you on Sunday, the 27th, at the same time, at the same place.